Commander Taemin stood on the elevated platform, his scaled hands gripping the sides of the podium. The grand hall of the Eternal Dawn buzzed with celebration. Hundreds of officers from dozens of species filled the massive chamber, their voices creating a symphony of different tongues and frequencies. Banners hung from the high ceiling, displaying the symbols of the Galactic Coalition. Victory had come at last. 3 days ago, they had defeated the Ravager swarm at the Terminus Nebula. The battle had raged for 18 hours without pause. Ships had burned. Soldiers had died. But in the end, the Coalition stood victorious. The Ravagers, those mindless, consuming monsters, had been pushed back. Their fleet was scattered. Their advance had stopped. Taemin's golden eyes scanned the crowd. He saw Admiral Hyunwoo, his fellow Valorian, standing near the front. The Admiral's ceremonial armor gleamed under the lights. Beside him stood General Dae Sung, the Krillian commander whose insectoid features remained unreadable as always. Further back, Taemin spotted the human contingent. They stood in neat rows, their uniforms crisp and clean. Captain Jiwon was among them, her dark hair pulled back, her face calm and composed. The humans. Always the humans. Commander Taemin, the announcer's voice echoed through the hall. Hero of the Terminus Nebula. Defender of the Coalition. Please step forward to receive the Star of Valor. Applause erupted. Taemin walked forward, his steps measured and precise. He had done this before. He had received medals, commendations, honors. In his 40 campaigns across the galaxy, he had seen every kind of warfare the universe could offer. Or so he had thought. Admiral Hyunwoo placed the star-shaped medal around Taemin's neck. The medal was cold against his scales. The two Valorians touched foreheads briefly in the traditional gesture of respect. Then Hyunwoo stepped back, gesturing for Taemin to address the assembly. Taemin approached the microphone. The hall fell silent. All eyes turned to him. He had prepared a speech. Words about courage, unity, sacrifice, the usual things one said at these ceremonies. But as he looked out at the crowd, as his gaze fell once more on the human section, different words came to his mind. 3 years ago, Taemin began, his voice steady. Humanity joined our coalition. I will admit to you now I was not pleased. A ripple of surprise moved through the hall. This was not how victory speeches typically started. I thought humans were too young, too inexperienced. They had barely left their home system when they encountered us. Their technology was primitive. Their understanding of galactic politics was limited. I wondered what they could possibly offer to our ancient alliance. Taemin paused. In the human section, Captain Jiwon's expression had not changed. She simply watched him with those dark, patient eyes. I was wrong, Taemin continued, but not in the way you might think. The silence in the hall had deepened. Something in Taemin's tone made the celebration feel suddenly uncomfortable. At the Terminus Nebula, I watched our human allies fight with extraordinary determination. I watched them hold positions that should have been abandoned. I watched them charge into situations that our tactical computers labeled as certain death. I watched them refuse evacuation when their ships were failing, when their weapons were empty, when their bodies were broken. He could see confusion spreading through the crowd now. Where was he going with this? We celebrate today because we won, but I wonder if we truly understand the nature of our victory. I wonder if we understand what it cost and who paid that cost most heavily. Admiral Hyunwoo shifted uncomfortably. This was not the inspiring speech he had expected. The casualty reports have been distributed to all senior officers, Taemin said. Those of you who have read them will know what I am about to say. The human contingent, which made up 12% of our forces, suffered 43% of our total casualties. This is not because they were assigned the most dangerous positions, though many volunteered for such posts. This is because of how they fight. He looked directly at the human section now. I have fought in 40 campaigns. I have served alongside Valorians, Krillians, Toltari, and dozens of other species. I thought I understood warfare. But watching humans fight taught me that I understood very little. There is something different about them. Something that both won us this battle and deeply troubles me. The discomfort in the hall was palpable now. General Dae Sung's mandibles clicked together nervously. Several officers exchanged confused glances. Today we honor victory, Taemin concluded. We honor sacrifice. We honor the fallen. But I believe we must also honor truth, even when that truth is uncomfortable. In the coming days, I will speak more on this matter. For now, let me simply say this. Humanity has proven itself worthy of standing beside us. But we may need to reconsider what that truly means. He stepped back from the podium. The applause that followed was scattered and uncertain. This was not the rousing speech anyone had expected. Admiral Hyunwoo approached him quickly, concern etched on his reptilian features. "Tae-min, what was that?" Hyunwoo whispered urgently. "This is a celebration. Why did you—" "Because someone needs to say it," Tae-min replied quietly, "before it is too late." As the ceremony continued and officers mingled, Tae-min found himself thinking back to his first mission with human forces. It had been 2 years ago, a simple patrol in the outer sectors. Nothing special, nothing dangerous. At least it was not supposed to be dangerous. They had encountered a small Ravager scout group. The engagement should have been brief. But the Ravagers had been more numerous than expected, and reinforcements had arrived before the coalition ships could retreat. They had been outnumbered 3-1. Tae-min had ordered a tactical withdrawal. It was the sensible thing to do. Preserve forces, regroup, return with greater numbers. Standard coalition doctrine. But the human vessel, a small frigate called the Dauntless, had not withdrawn. Its captain, a woman named Jiwon, had positioned her ship directly in the path of the advancing Ravagers. She had bought the other vessels time to escape, fighting alone against impossible odds. Tae-min had expected the Dauntless to be destroyed. He had begun composing the letters he would send to the families of its crew. But when relief forces arrived an hour later, the frigate was still there. Damaged, burning, barely functioning, but still fighting. Every member of its crew had survived. Injured, yes, several critically, but alive. That should have been impossible. Now, standing in the celebration hall with a medal around his neck, Tae-min watched Captain Jiwon across the room. She had been promoted after that mission. She was a hero now, like him. But when he looked at her, he felt something he had never felt when looking at a fellow officer before. He felt afraid. Not afraid of her. Afraid for what she represented. Afraid of what it meant to have humans as allies. Afraid of what it might mean if they were ever enemies. The celebration continued around him. But Tae-min could not shake the feeling that everyone was celebrating something they did not fully understand. They thought they had won because they were strong, because they were united, because their cause was just. But Tae-min knew the truth. They had won because the humans had shown them a kind of warfare the galaxy had never seen before. And that was a truth he needed to share, no matter how uncomfortable it made everyone feel. The party would end soon. Tomorrow the real conversation would begin. The briefing room was cold and silent. Tae-min arrived early, as he always did. He wanted time to organize his thoughts before the others came. The room was designed for secure meetings, its walls lined with technology that prevented any signal from entering or leaving. What was said here would remain private. He placed a data tablet on the conference table and sat down. The casualty reports glowed on the screen. Numbers, names, species, causes of death. He had read through them 3 times already, but each reading only confirmed what he had seen with his own eyes. The door opened. Admiral Hyunwoo entered first, followed by General Dae-sung. The Krillion's multiple legs clicked against the metal floor. Behind them came Colonel Minji, the human special operations commander. She was shorter than most humans Tae-min had met, but there was something in her eyes that suggested she was far more dangerous than her size implied. Last to enter was Dr. Su Jin, a Valorian xenobiologist. She carried several data pads and looked troubled. "Thank you for coming," Tae-min said as they all took their seats. "I know my speech yesterday was unusual. Some of you may think I have lost my mind. After what I'm about to share, some of you may be certain of it." Admiral Hyunwoo folded his clawed hands on the table. "Tae-min, you are a respected officer. You have earned the right to speak your mind, but you must understand that your words yesterday caused concern. The humans are our allies. We need unity, not division. I am not trying to divide us," Tae-min said. "I am trying to make sure we understand who we are unified with." He activated the holographic projector. 3-dimensional images appeared above the table, showing battle footage from the Terminus Nebula. Ships engaged in combat. Energy weapons lit up the darkness of space. The Ravagers swarmed like insects, mindless and hungry. "This is Sector 7 during the battle," Tae-min explained. "The human destroyer Resolute was stationed here with 2 Valorian cruisers. When the Ravagers broke through the outer line, Tactical Command ordered all vessels to fall back to the second defensive position. The footage showed the Valorian ships beginning their retreat, but the human destroyer remained in place. The Resolute did not retreat, Taman continued. Its captain ignored direct orders. Instead, the ship advanced into the Ravager formation. The hologram showed the small destroyer pushing forward, its weapons firing continuously. The Ravagers swarmed around it like predators surrounding prey. This should have been suicide, Taman said. The ship was outnumbered 20-1. Its shields failed within 2 minutes. Hull breaches were detected on 6 decks. Life support was compromised. Yet it continued fighting for another 17 minutes. General Daesung's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Desperate courage. Admirable, but ultimately foolish. That is what I thought at first, Taman said. He changed the image. Now the hologram showed a different angle, focusing on a specific section of the Resolute. But look here. This is the bridge. Even after the ship suffered catastrophic damage, even after 30 crew members were killed, the survivors kept fighting. More than that, they began ramming Ravager vessels. Colonel Minji spoke for the first time. Her voice was calm, almost casual. Standard human doctrine: when weapons are depleted, the ship becomes the weapon. The room fell silent. The other alien officers stared at her. You have doctrine for that? Admiral Hyunwoo asked quietly. Of course, Minji replied. Why waste a damaged ship when it can still serve a purpose? Taman felt a chill run down his spine. Despite the room's warm temperature, he had suspected this, but hearing a human confirm it so casually was disturbing. This is not an isolated incident, Taman said. He brought up more footage. Here, a human soldier named Corporal Jiwon was part of a team planting explosives on a Ravager boarding pod. The pod activated early. Her squad retreated, but she stayed behind to complete the mission. She manually detonated the charges while still inside the blast radius. The hologram showed the explosion. When the smoke cleared, there was no way anyone could have survived. She should have died, Taman said, but she did not. We found her 3 hours later in the wreckage. She had a collapsed lung, 2 broken legs, severe burns, and had lost 40% of her blood. She was still conscious, still holding her weapon, still trying to fight. Dr. Sujin leaned forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her discomfort. How did she survive? That is what I asked you here to explain, Taman said, gesturing to the doctor. You have been studying human biology. Tell them what you discovered. Dr. Sujin hesitated, then activated her own datapad. New information appeared in the holographic display. Charts, graphs, biological scans. Human physiology is unusual, she began. Their pain tolerance is significantly higher than most spacefaring species. Their bodies produce natural chemicals during stress that allow them to continue functioning despite severe injury. They call it adrenaline. Many species have stress responses, General Daesung pointed out. Not like this, Dr. Sujin said. She highlighted a section of the data. A Valorian with these injuries would be unconscious within minutes. A Krillian would die from shock. A Toltari's nervous system would simply shut down. But humans can remain active, even combative, for extended periods. Their brains can override pain signals that would incapacitate others. She brought up another chart. Additionally, their survival instinct is coupled with something unusual. They can choose to ignore it. Most species, when faced with certain death, will flee or surrender. It is biological programming for survival, but humans can consciously decide to face death anyway. That is insane, Admiral Hyunwoo said. Yes, Colonel Minji agreed simply. It is. Taman appreciated her honesty, even if it was unsettling. The casualty reports show that humans made up 43% of our losses, Taman said. But what the reports do not clearly show is that most human casualties occurred because they deliberately placed themselves in the most dangerous positions. They volunteered for suicide missions. They held positions that should have been abandoned. They refused evacuation when ordered. They are brave, General Daesung said. They are reckless, Admiral Hyunwoo countered. They are effective, Taman said quietly. That is what troubles me most. Their tactics work. The Resolute destroyed 47 Ravager vessels before it was finally disabled. Corporal Jiwon's sacrifice allowed her team to destroy a boarding pod that would have compromised our entire defense line. These are not accidents. This is how humans fight. He looked at each officer in turn. We have been waging war in the galaxy for thousands of years. We have rules. We have honor. We understand acceptable losses and strategic retreat. We value the lives of our soldiers. But humans approach warfare differently. They fight as if every battle is their last. They treat their own lives as expendable resources. Colonel Minji remained calm throughout this assessment. You are not wrong, Commander. But you are not entirely right either. We do not treat our lives as worthless. We simply understand that some things are worth dying for. That is the problem, Taemin said. You all seem to think everything is worth dying for. Not everything, Minji corrected. But protecting others? Stopping the Ravagers? Yes, those are worth dying for. Admiral Hyunwoo rubbed his scaled forehead. This is troubling, but I do not see why it requires a secret meeting. The humans fight with determination. That makes them good allies, does it? Taemin challenged. Or does it make them dangerous? What happens when we disagree with humanity about strategy? What happens if our interests diverge? We now have allies who will fight to the death for what they believe in. That should concern us. You think humans are a threat? General Dae-sung asked. I think we do not understand them, Taemin said. And I think we should before it is too late. Dr. Soo-jin spoke up again. There is something else you should know. I have been researching human history. Their homeworld, Earth, has records of their past conflicts. Before they joined us, humans spent their entire existence fighting each other. This caught everyone's attention. What do you mean? Admiral Hyunwoo asked. I mean they have been at war for thousands of years, Dr. Soo-jin said. Not against alien threats. Against themselves. They have refined warfare into an art form. Everything we have seen them do in battle against the Ravagers, they first practiced against each other. The room fell silent again. Taemin could see the implications dawning on the faces around him. I need to research this further, he said. I need to understand what humanity truly is. Because right now, I do not think we know what we have invited into our alliance. Colonel Minji stood up. Commander, you are welcome to research our history. You will find it troubling. You will find it violent. You may even find it horrifying. But you will also find that we chose to stop fighting ourselves. We chose to join you. We chose to protect instead of destroy. That choice matters. She left the room without waiting for a response. Taemin watched her go. Her words were reassuring, but they did not ease his concern. A species that could choose peace could also choose war. And if humans were as effective at warfare as he suspected, that was a terrifying thought. The Coalition archives were vast beyond imagination. Thousands of years of history from hundreds of worlds were stored here, preserved in crystalline data storage that would last for millennia. Taemin walked through the quiet halls, his footsteps echoing against the high ceilings. Few people came here physically anymore. Most accessed the archives remotely. But Taemin wanted to be here in person. He needed to think, to process what he was about to discover. He reached the human section, which was much smaller than the others. Humanity had only joined the Coalition 3 years ago. Their contribution to the archives was limited to what they had brought from Earth, and what they had done since joining. Still, it was enough, more than enough. A human woman sat at a desk near the entrance to the human records. She looked up as Taemin approached. She was young, perhaps 30 by human standards, with glasses perched on her nose and her hair tied back in a simple style. Commander Taemin, she said, standing and offering a slight bow. I am Yoonji, the archivist assigned to human records. I was told you would be coming. Colonel Minji contacted you? Taemin asked. She did. She said you wanted to understand human military history. Yoonji's expression was difficult to read. She also said I should be honest with you, even if the truth is uncomfortable. I appreciate honesty, Taemin said. Yoonji gestured to a private study room. Then please come with me. What I am about to show you is not classified, but it is not something we typically share freely. They entered the room. Yoonji activated a holographic display system. Images began to appear in the air around them. Maps, documents, photographs, video recordings. Where would you like to begin? Yoonji asked. At the beginning, Taemin said. How long have humans been fighting wars? Yoonji was quiet for a moment. Since the beginning. There is no point in human history where we were not fighting someone, usually ourselves. She brought up a timeline. It stretched back thousands of years. Taemin began to read the entries and his blood ran cold. Ancient wars, medieval wars, colonial wars, world wars. The timeline was filled with conflicts, large and small, spreading across every continent of Earth. The human homeworld had been a battlefield for its entire recorded history. This is normal for you? Taemin asked quietly. It was, Unji said. Past tense. We have changed. But yes, for most of our history, war was constant. We fought over territory, resources, religion, ideology, pride. Sometimes we fought simply because we knew how to fight and nothing else. She zoomed in on a specific period. These are what we call the World Wars. Two massive conflicts in the 20th century that involved nearly every nation on Earth. The first killed around 17 million people. The second killed over 60 million. Taemin felt sick. 60 million. How large was your population then? About 2 billion, Yoonji said. So we killed roughly 3% of our entire species in 6 years. The numbers were staggering. The coalition had fought the Ravagers for a decade, and total casualties across all species were less than 5 million. Humans had killed more of themselves in a single conflict than the Ravagers had killed in a decade of warfare. How? Taemin asked.
How did you kill so many?
Kunji pulled up more records, weapons, strategies, battle plans. We became very good at killing. We industrialized it. We created weapons specifically designed for maximum destruction. Chemical weapons that melted lungs. Biological weapons that spread disease. Incendiary weapons that burned entire cities. And finally, nuclear weapons. She showed him footage of nuclear explosions. Entire cities vanished in seconds. The destruction was absolute. These weapons could destroy civilization, Taemin said. They nearly did, Yoonji agreed. After we invented them, we came very close to using them on a massive scale. We called it mutually assured destruction. The idea was that if anyone used these weapons, everyone would use them, and the entire world would be destroyed. So we did not use them. We just built more and more of them and pointed them at each other. That is insane. Yes, Yoonji said simply. It was. Taemin continued reading through the records. He learned about trench warfare, where soldiers lived in mud and filth for years, dying by the millions for a few kilometers of land. He learned about siege tactics that starved entire cities. He learned about something called total war, where civilian populations became targets. You fought without honor, Taemin said. It was not an accusation, just an observation. Often, yes, Yoonji admitted. When we were desperate, we did terrible things. We bombed cities filled with civilians. We burned forests and poisoned wells. We used tactics that were designed to break the enemy's will to fight, not just their ability to fight. She pulled up more records. We also fought long wars, conflicts that lasted decades. The 100 Years' War actually lasted 116 years. We had conflicts that spanned generations. Children grew up knowing nothing but war, then had children of their own who also knew nothing but war. Taemin thought about coalition conflicts. Most lasted months, perhaps a year or two at most. Even the current war against the Ravagers was only a decade old, and the coalition was already desperate for peace. But humans had fought century-long wars. Why did you not destroy yourselves? Taemin asked. We nearly did. Multiple times. Yoonji sat down looking tired. But we are also very good at surviving. That is the other side of human nature. We are hard to kill, hard to break, hard to defeat. When we wanted to destroy each other, we were devastatingly effective. But when we wanted to survive, we were equally effective. She brought up different records now. Medical advances born from war. Technologies developed for military purposes that later saved lives. We learned from our wars. We became better at healing because we became better at hurting. Strange, is it not? Taemin studied a particularly detailed military manual from something called the Second World War. The strategies were complex, brutal, and terrifyingly effective. He recognized some of the tactics. He had seen human soldiers use them against the Ravagers. You still use these strategies, he said. Modified, yes, Yoonji confirmed. We do not forget what works. But we try to use those strategies for better purposes now. Instead of fighting each other, we fight threats to the galaxy. Instead of destroying, we protect. But you still know how to destroy, Taemin said. Yes, we will always know that. You cannot unlearn what we learned. You cannot undo what we did. Human military knowledge is written in blood across thousands of years. Every tactic we use, every strategy we employ, was refined through countless battles against our own kind. Taemin pulled up information about human special operations forces. He read about tactics designed for operating behind enemy lines, causing maximum disruption with minimal forces. He read about psychological warfare, where the goal was to break the enemy's mind before breaking their body. He read about scorched earth policies, where retreating armies destroyed everything, so the enemy would gain nothing. The Coalition has rules of warfare, Taman said. Honor codes. Things we do not do because they are considered too cruel. We had those too, Yunji said. We called them the Geneva Conventions. Rules about how to treat prisoners, how to treat civilians, what weapons were too terrible to use. But we broke those rules when we thought we needed to. When we were desperate or angry or afraid, we broke them. She looked at Taemin directly. Do you know what Colonel Minji told me before you came? She said you were afraid of us. She said you were starting to understand what humans really are. I am starting to, yes, Taemin admitted. Then let me be completely honest with you, Yunji said. Humans are dangerous. We are violent. We are capable of terrible things. Every human in the Coalition military knows this about themselves. We grew up learning our history. We know what our ancestors did to each other. We know what we are capable of doing. She stood up and walked to the holographic display, gesturing at the countless records of human warfare. This is why we joined the Coalition. Not to learn how to fight. We already knew that too well. We joined to learn how not to fight. We joined to learn honor, mercy, restraint, things that were rare in human history. You are saying humans joined us to become better? Taemin asked. Yes. We met the Valorians, the Krillians, the Toltari. We saw species that had achieved peace among themselves. Species that had rules of warfare and actually followed them. Species that valued life more than victory. We wanted to be like that. Yunji looked sad. But we cannot change what we are overnight. We still fight the way we always fought. We still think the way we always thought. When you watch a human soldier refuse to retreat, when you see them charge into certain death, when you see them fight with injuries that should kill them, you are seeing thousands of years of evolution and culture. You are seeing what we had to become to survive on a world where we were our own worst enemy. Taemin was quiet for a long time. He continued browsing through the records. He saw patterns emerging. Humans did not just fight. They studied warfare. They analyzed it. They improved it. Generation after generation, they became more effective at killing each other. And then they stopped. They unified. They reached space. They met other species. And they chose to fight for others instead of against each other. Are you afraid? Yunji asked quietly. Yes, Taemin admitted. I am afraid of what humans are. Taemin found Captain Jiwon in the observation deck. She stood alone, looking out at the stars through the massive transparent wall. The eternal dawn was in orbit around a peaceful world, one they had just finished protecting. The planet glowed blue and green below them, untouched by war. Captain, Taemin said as he approached. Jiwon turned. She had been promoted after the battle, but she still wore her uniform in the same neat, simple way. Commander, I wondered when you would come to talk to me. You knew I would? Colonel Minji said you were researching our history. She said you were asking the right questions. Jiwon gestured to the view. Beautiful, is it not? A world that will never know the Ravagers came, because we stopped them. At great cost, Taemin said. Yes. Jiwon did not look away from the window. We lost many good people, humans and others. But that world down there is worth it. Taemin stood beside her. For a moment, they both just looked at the planet. Then Taemin spoke. I have spent the last 3 days learning about humanity, your history, your wars, your violence. I thought I understood what I was seeing in battle. Now I realize I understood nothing. And now you are afraid of us, Jiwon said. It was not a question. Should I be? Jiwon considered this carefully. That depends. Are you afraid of a weapon? Or are you afraid of the person holding it? I do not understand. Humans are weapons, Commander. We were forged in violence. We were shaped by thousands of years of warfare. Everything about us, from our bodies to our minds to our culture, was designed to survive and win conflicts. You looked at our history. You saw what we are capable of doing to each other. We are very effective weapons. She finally turned to face him. But weapons do not choose their targets, people do. We chose to point ourselves at the Ravagers instead of at the galaxy. We chose to protect instead of conquer. So the question is not whether we are dangerous, we are. The question is whether you trust us to remain pointed in the right direction. And should I trust you? Taemin asked. I cannot answer that for you, Jiwon said. But I can tell you what I believe. I believe humans needed the Coalition as much as the Coalition needed us. When we met your people, when we saw species that had achieved peace among themselves, we saw what we wanted to become. We saw a better way. She walked to a different part of the observation deck. But changing is hard. When the battle starts, when people are dying, when everything is chaos, we fall back on what we know. And what we know is how to fight without mercy, without hesitation, without fear. That is what you saw at the Terminus Nebula. That is what troubles you. It does, Taman admitted. Because I saw humans do things that should be impossible. I saw them refuse to die when anyone else would have given up. I saw them fight as if life itself meant nothing. Life means everything, G1 said firmly. That is why we fight so hard to protect it. We just happen to include our own lives in what we are willing to sacrifice. Is that so strange? For the Coalition, yes. We value the lives of our soldiers. We have acceptable loss ratios. We have strategic retreat protocols. We believe that soldiers who survive one battle can fight in the next. Your tactics ignore all of this. Jiwan nodded slowly. You are right. From your perspective, we are reckless. But from our perspective, every battle might be the last one. Every fight might be the one where we fail and entire worlds die. So we fight as if failure is not an option, because for us it never was. She pulled up a holographic display from her wrist computer. It showed a young human man in uniform. He looked barely old enough to be a soldier. This is Private Sung Ho. He is 20 years old. He grew up in the peaceful era, after Earth unified after we joined the Coalition. He never experienced war on Earth. He never saw humans fight humans, but he still volunteered for the military. Do you know why? Taman shook his head. Because he learned his history. He learned what humans did to each other. He learned about the world wars, the genocides, the senseless violence, and he decided that if humans were so effective at destruction, they should use that effectiveness to protect instead. He wanted to be part of something better than what our ancestors were. The display shifted to show combat footage. Taman recognized it. The Battle of the Terminus Nebula. He saw Private Sung Ho fighting, saw him carry a wounded Valorian soldier to safety, saw him return to battle even when ordered to retreat for medical treatment. He was injured 4 times during the battle, Jiwan said. Each time he refused evacuation. Each time he returned to his position. He said other people needed the medical resources more than he did. He said he could still fight. And he did. That should not be possible, Taman said. For humans it is. That is what you need to understand, Commander. When you see humans do impossible things, you are not seeing superhumans or enhanced soldiers. You are seeing normal humans doing what normal humans can do when they believe something is worth the cost. Every human you see in uniform knows they might die. They accept this. They volunteer anyway. Taman thought about the research he had done. The archives had shown him that human history was full of soldiers like Sung Ho. Young people who chose to fight, who chose to sacrifice, who chose to stand between their people and destruction. It was not unique to this era. It was part of being human. Come with me, Jiwan said suddenly. I want to show you something. She led him to the training facilities. Even though the battle was over, human soldiers were still practicing. Taman watched as they ran through combat simulations. The scenarios were brutal. Most ended with the soldiers dying, but they kept trying, kept practicing, kept looking for ways to win even unwinnable situations. Watch this one, Jiwan said, pointing to a particular simulation. The scenario was simple, a small team defending a position against overwhelming enemy forces. The Coalition tactical computer had already calculated the outcome. 0% chance of success. Complete casualties projected within 4 minutes. The human team started the simulation. They worked with perfect coordination, each soldier knowing exactly what the others would do. They used the terrain, conserved ammunition, fell back strategically. When their weapons ran out, they used hand-to-hand combat. When they were injured, they kept fighting. The simulation ended after 8 minutes. The humans had lost, but they had held for twice as long as projected and taken many enemies with them. Why do they practice scenarios they cannot win? Taman asked. Because someone has to, Jiwan said. In every battle, there are positions that must be held even if they cannot be held. Someone has to volunteer for those positions. So we practice them. We prepare for them. We accept them. She pulled up another display. These are the tactical simulations used by other Coalition species. Notice anything? Taman looked. The scenarios always included victory conditions. They always assumed that if a situation became impossible, retreat was acceptable. Survival was prioritized. Human simulations are different, Jiwan said. We include scenarios where retreat is not an option, where survival is not possible. where the only choice is how long you can hold and how many enemies you can stop before you fall. Other species never practice these scenarios because other species think they should not exist. But they do exist, and someone has to be ready for them. Taemin watched the soldiers train. He saw them die repeatedly in simulations, then immediately start again. They were not discouraged by failure. They learned from it, adapted, tried new approaches. They treated certain death as a problem to be solved, not a reason to give up. You really do not fear death, do you? Taemin said quietly. We fear it, Jiwan corrected. We just do not let that fear control us. Fear is useful. It keeps you alert, keeps you careful. But fear should not stop you from doing what needs to be done. That is what we teach our soldiers. Feel the fear. Acknowledge it. Then do your duty anyway. Lieutenant Yuna approached them. She was one of the tactical officers who had served during the battle. Captain, the after-action review is ready. Commander Taemin, Admiral Hyunwoo requested you attend as well. They made their way to the briefing room. The after-action review was a detailed analysis of everything that happened during the battle. Taemin listened as various officers presented their findings. The Valorian commanders talked about tactical formations. The Krillian commanders discussed resource allocation. The Toltari commanders analyzed communication efficiency. Then Colonel Minji stood up to present the human analysis. Her report was different. She did not talk about formations or resources. She talked about individual decisions made by individual soldiers. She talked about Private Sung-ho choosing to carry his wounded comrade instead of seeking cover. She talked about the crew of the Resolute deciding to ram enemy vessels. She talked about hundreds of small moments where humans made choices that prioritized mission success over personal survival. These decisions won the battle, Minji concluded. Each one individually seems reckless. Each one violated standard coalition doctrine. But collectively, they created outcomes that our enemies could not predict or counter. The Ravagers expected us to value our lives the way they value their own existence. They expected rational self-preservation. They were wrong. Admiral Hyunwoo shifted uncomfortably. Colonel, are you saying that human irrationality is a tactical advantage? The alert came in the middle of the night cycle. Red lights flashed throughout the eternal dawn. Taemin was in his quarters reviewing reports when the emergency broadcast began. All personnel to battle stations. Ravager fleet detected approaching Krilla Prime. ETA 4 hours. This is not a drill, Krilla Prime. A civilian world, home to 8 million Krillians and colonists from a dozen other species. It had no military facilities, no strategic value. It was simply a place where people lived, worked, raised families, the kind of place the coalition existed to protect. Taemin ran to the bridge. Admiral Hyunwoo was already there, along with General Dae-sung and the other senior officers. Captain Ji-won arrived moments later, still fastening her uniform jacket. Status report, Hyunwoo commanded. The tactical officer, a young Valorian, displayed the sensor data. Ravager fleet estimated 300 vessels, heading directly for Krilla Prime. Our fleet consists of 47 ships. We are outnumbered 6-1. The bridge fell silent. Those were impossible odds. The coalition had never won a battle with such overwhelming numerical disadvantage. The tactical computers were already calculating outcomes. None of them were good. We must evacuate the planet, General Dae-sung said. There is no other option. There is not enough time, the tactical officer reported. Evacuation would take at least 12 hours. We have 4 hours at most. Then we hold them, Ji-won said. Her voice was calm, but there was steel beneath it. We hold them for as long as we can. Give the civilians time to reach shelters to prepare defenses. Captain, the numbers, Hyunwoo began. I know the numbers, Admiral. I also know that 8 million people are about to die if we do nothing. So we do something. Colonel Minji stepped forward. Admiral, the human contingent requests permission to execute Protocol Omega. The bridge fell silent again. Taemin had never heard of Protocol Omega. From the looks on the other alien officers' faces, neither had they. What is Protocol Omega? Hyunwoo asked slowly. Minji glanced at Ji-won, who nodded. It is a tactical protocol developed by Human Military Command. It is classified at the highest level. Other species do not have clearance to know the details. We are about to fight together, Taemin said. There should be no secrets between us. There are some secrets that exist to protect you, Minji said. Things you should not know because knowing them would change how you see us. But given the situation, I believe you need to understand what we are about to do. She activated a secure holographic display. Plans appeared, showing ship movements, attack patterns, and tactics that made Taemin's blood run cold. Protocol Omega is a last resort strategy, Minji explained. It is designed for situations where victory is impossible through conventional means. It involves tactics that violate several coalition warfare conventions. It involves acceptable human casualty rates that would be considered unacceptable by any other species. And it involves a level of aggression and ruthlessness that we normally keep restrained. You are talking about fighting like humans fought each other, Taemin said quietly. Yes, Minji confirmed. We are talking about unleashing everything we learned from thousands of years of human warfare. Everything we have been holding back. Everything we have been trying not to be. Admiral Hyunwoo looked at the plans with growing horror. These tactics, this would be a slaughter? Yes, Jiwon said. Mostly of humans. Estimated human casualties are 70%. But we would hold long enough for the civilians to survive. That is what matters. I cannot authorize this, Hyunwoo said. I cannot send your people to certain death. You are not sending us, Jiwon said. We are volunteering. Every human ship captain has already confirmed their participation. We know what this means. We accept the cost. Taemin looked at the human officers on the bridge. Lieutenant Yuna stood at her station, her face calm. Other human crew members continued their duties, showing no fear, no hesitation. They knew what was coming. They had accepted it. There must be another way, General Daesung said. There is not, Minji replied. The tactical computers have run every scenario. Without Protocol Omega, Krilla Prime falls. With it, they have a 73% chance of survival. The choice is clear. Not to me, Hyunwoo said. I will not sacrifice an entire species contingent to save one world. The coalition needs humanity. We cannot afford to lose you. With respect, Admiral, Jiwon said, the coalition needs us to be who we are, and who we are is a species that stands between civilians and monsters no matter the cost. If we fail to do that here, if we calculate that some lives are worth more than others, then we are not worth having as allies. The communication system activated. Chancellor Bora appeared on the main screen. She was an older human woman, the civilian leader of humanity's contribution to the coalition. Her face was serious. Admiral Hyunwoo, she said, I have been informed of the situation. As the civilian authority for humanity within the coalition, I am formally authorizing the execution of Protocol Omega. This is not a military decision. This is a political one. Humanity joined the coalition to protect life. If we fail to do that when it matters most, we betray everything we claim to believe. Hyunwoo looked around the bridge. He saw the determination on the human faces. He saw the fear on the alien faces. Two sides of the same moment seeing the same situation so differently. Commander Taemin, Hyunwoo said, you have studied humanity more than any of us. You have researched their history. You understand what they are capable of. What is your recommendation? Taemin thought about everything he had learned. The wars, the violence, the terrible efficiency of human warfare. He thought about Jiwon refusing to retreat. He thought about Sung-ho fighting with impossible wounds. He thought about thousands of years of humans perfecting the art of destruction. Then he thought about why they had stopped fighting each other. Why they had joined the coalition. Why they were volunteering now? Let them fight, Taemin said. Let them be what they are. But let us fight beside them. If humans can choose death for strangers, we can choose to stand with them. Hyunwoo closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, he had made his decision. Protocol Omega is authorized. All ships prepare for battle. Human vessels will take point positions. Non-human vessels will provide support and covering fire. Our goal is to hold the Ravagers long enough for Krilla Prime to survive. That is all that matters. The fleet moved into position. The human ships formed the front line, spreading out in a pattern that looked chaotic but was carefully calculated. Behind them, the alien vessels took supporting positions. Everyone knew this formation meant the humans would take the worst of the enemy assault. The Ravagers arrived exactly on schedule. 300 ships, their organic hulls pulsing with alien life. They moved like a swarm of insects coordinated by a hive mind that knew no fear, no mercy, no concept of individual survival. They outnumber us 6-1, the tactical officer reported. Estimated time until we are overwhelmed, 14 minutes. Then we make those 14 minutes count, Jiwon said. The battle began. The human ships surged forward with shocking speed. They did not wait for the enemy to come to them. They attacked. The first human vessel to make contact was a destroyer named Defiant. It fired everything it had, then rammed directly into a Ravager battleship. The explosion destroyed both vessels. "Defiant is lost," the tactical officer said, her voice shaking. "Defiant bought us time," Jiwan corrected. "Log it as a successful engagement." More human ships followed the same pattern. They fought with the tactics Minji had shown them. Ramming attacks, suicidal charges, refusal to retreat even when their ships were crippled. Each human vessel took multiple Ravagers with them before falling. But they were falling. The casualty numbers climbed rapidly. 10 human ships gone, 15, 20. Taemin watched from the Eternal Dawn's bridge. He wanted to look away but forced himself to watch. These humans were dying to protect people they had never met. The least he could do was witness their sacrifice. "Time?" Hyunwoo asked quietly. 21 minutes have passed, the tactical officer reported. "We are still holding. Human casualties at 62%. Ravager casualties at 41%. They were trading at a rate that should be impossible. The humans were outnumbered, outgunned, and dying, but they were taking the enemy with them. Every human death bought time. Every destroyed human ship disrupted the Ravager formation. Krilla Prime has successfully evacuated all surface civilians to underground shelters," another officer reported. "Planetary defenses are online. They can hold now." "Then we retreat," Hyunwoo ordered. "All vessels fall back to—" "Negative," Jiwan's voice came over the communication system. "Ravagers are pursuing. If we retreat now, they will follow us directly to the planet. We need to finish this here." "Captain, your forces are almost gone," Hyunwoo protested. "Which means we have nothing left to lose," Jiwan replied. Her ship, the Resolute, was badly damaged. Life support was failing. Half her crew was dead or injured. But she sounded calm, almost at peace. "Admiral, it has been an honor serving with you. Tell the Coalition we died doing what humans do best, protecting others." "Jiwan," Taemin started. "Commander," she interrupted. "Remember what you learned about us. Remember why we fight this way. And remember that we chose this. No one forced us.